Let's talk a little bit more about British Prime Minister Theresa May's visit to the White House. We're joined by Brian Beary, the contributing editor at the European Union. Thank you, Brian, for being with us. First of all, what do you make of what we saw today at this news conference? What do you make of the dynamics, of the body language, and what we heard from these two leaders?
Thanks for having me on. I think it was a very positive meeting. I think Theresa May and Donald Trump will both be very pleased. The optics looked good. There were some good gift exchanges. I believe the bust of Winston Churchill that was famously removed from the Oval Office by Barack Obama is back in its place. A lot of talk about the special relationship, and for different reasons, both of them very keen to rekindle that special relationship. So I think both of them will go away from the meeting quite pleased.
I think that one of the most remarkable things as journalists watching this was when Theresa May sort of turned around to President Trump and brought up the whole issue of NATO. And we had a soundbite earlier. She turned around to the president and said, "I think you said that you confirmed that you're 100% behind NATO." And then obviously that's significant because Donald Trump had called NATO obsolete. So what do you make of that moment? And we didn't hear anything publicly from the U.S. president at that moment about his thoughts on NATO.
I think we won't be hearing President Donald Trump saying the word obsolete when it comes to NATO again. The 100%, I'm sure this is something the British pushed hard on, and I doubt that President Trump pushed back on it at all. His beef throughout the campaign was that other NATO member states were not paying enough their fair share of NATO. So it's easy for Theresa May to play the kind of middle person, saying that she'll go back to Europe and push her European friends to spend that 2% of their GDP on defense, and then President Trump will be happy because that's what he was calling for all along. So both of them can come away looking like they delivered.
They won, right. Yeah. What about areas where these two leaders do not agree on? Is Russia one of them?
Yes, Russia is certainly one, because Britain was full square behind the sanctions after Russia annexed Crimea. President Trump has famously had this bromance with President Putin. We'll see how long that lasts. Britain has a very different position on Russia. But again, Prime Minister May can walk away saying she influenced him, and that he indicated that there'd be no immediate lifting of sanctions against Russia. So again, I think a win for Prime Minister May on that score.
And how do you think this is playing out in British media? What did they want to see out of this, and did they get what they wanted?
I think President Trump has just stunned the world, including the British media. So a lot of it was just optics and the body language and how they got along. And of course, Theresa May, the vicar's daughter, very different personality to President Trump, and yet they seem to connect quite well. I thought it was very interesting that Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth extended the invitation to President Trump for a state visit. So you have, first of all, the first visit of a foreign leader to the White House, right, the UK, and also the returning the favor. No doubt President Trump will be delighted to go on a state visit and meet Her Majesty the Queen. Again, I think this was a PR.
A win-win for both of them. All right. Brian, I apologize because I said your title wrong. So you're the contributing editor at the European Institute. My apologies because I said European Union earlier.
Sure.
Brian Beary, thank you so much for being with us.